Welcome in, folks, to another great episode of I've Got a Theory. I'm your host, Henish Pulickal, and I've got my new friend on, Angel Ribo, the CEO Confidant.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me, and thank you everybody listening to us today.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. So, I'm going to spring this on you. I forgot to mention it. Hey guys, this is Henish with I've Got a Theory, and I wanted to share a new podcast that I discovered recently called Signal. It's SYGNYL. And it's super interesting. We're going to play a trailer at the end of our episode here. And it's just launched. It's a participatory arts podcast, which invites listeners to explore the hidden world all around them. So there's going to be little challenges. It's collaborative. You can print out worksheets. And I've been following along raptly because it's super cool. It's subtle, and you wouldn't know how into it you can get. And there's already 2 episodes out so far, so I'm rolling with it. SYGNYL, Signal. Angel, talk to me. You've had an interesting life. You've lived in a lot of different places. You speak a lot of different languages. You get to be an influencer, and you get to interact with high-level people all over the world. Tell me a little bit about that. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing, and then we'll dive into your theory.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Yes. So, I happen to be so lucky that although both of my parents were originally from a very humble origin, they asked me, they actually put me through intense foreign language education, both French and English in the beginning. So that really set my life up for, going out to the world. I remember in the 90s living in Spain. I'm originally from Barcelona. And that started me my career. And I've been since then doing the same thing, which is basically helping both CEOs and C-level executives and established entrepreneurs bridge the gap globally for expansion and exposure. Expansion as in business development, using business development strategies as the excuse for accelerating the growth of their businesses, and exposure as of using specific, tactics and strategies to, marketing strategies to go to those new markets. And very honestly, once you start that journey, you realize that there's not so many differences between going internationally or even going, 2 states more north here in the Union. So everything kind of adds up.
Wow, what an incredible experience. So as a result, you've seen and experienced and had conversations with people, and you've learned a lot of things yourself along the way. But what I want to get to is what kind of triggered this shift to your current career versus what you were doing before. Let's talk about that, because that's kind of where this goes to.
So I was working for large corporations since the 90s up until 2016. And what made me change is actually something that happened at the end or in the beginning of 2015, when it was on a Saturday morning. It was 8 a.m. I was getting up. I felt extremely remorseful because again, I was going back home to DFW from Mexico City on a Saturday as opposed to going on a Friday. When you have so much work that you compromise again your family, your kids, your wife, because of responsibility of being in charge of certain side of the business for a large corporation. So I felt so remorseful. I got up. I remember still exactly the hotel in Mexico City where it was. I remember the exact room. I remember when I went to the shower to have the shower that morning, that as soon as the water started to touch my skin, I immediately felt like a rush of energy. I could not explain it. It's like a dramatic, like goosebumps on all my body. And I started to see all those flashes, all those images of things that I had been doing, for the last 15 years while I was working with Latin American businesses for the entire continent of Latin America, that I was in touch with these very high level executives. And every time I was going to visit them on those manufacturing plants in the outskirts of the large cities, I would be meeting with these very impoverished, underprivileged kids that would come to me. If you've been in Latin America, you will probably resonate with this, which is those kids coming to you saying, hey, would you buy some candy with me? Would you buy some sandwiches? Would you allow me to keep your car safe? Can we wash your car while you are inside the manufacturing plant? So all those things came to me, and the message was like, those things are connected, Angel. Those 2 worlds are connected, and you are definitely someone that can connect those 2 worlds, and you can make a better place. And, I remember literally falling on my knees inside the bathtub, literally crying like a baby. I've never been in my time.
So have you ever had an experience like that before that physically overcame you?
Not as strong as this one. I had a
Do you
similar
think
one.
anything happened the prior day or the prior week that led up to that, or that kind of primed you for that, or did it come spontaneously?
I would say I was exhausted. I was, when there's nothing else. I mean, I remember waking up so exhausted. Like I had worked so hard that previous week, so hard, like really literally. I mean, I think I remember, what I remember is that I had a lot of late dinners. It's very common in Latin America to have like working breakfasts,
Late
dinners,
yeah,
lunches,
until late at night. Yep.
Exactly. So, I mean, I eventually, every single day that week, I had worked long hours and it was totally like with no energy. But it's funny how I kind of had to hit rock bottom in order to have that happen to me.
That's
it's
that's a common story, right? For sure. Yeah. Okay.
it's funny. Oh, okay. I didn't know. So, but it's exactly what happened, and I remember being very sensitive for the rest of the day. I remember that the gentleman that used to drive me around in Mexico City, I remember that he came, and that day I told him, hey, park your car, come with me, we're going to have breakfast together. His name is Martin, right? And I started talking with him. I said, it's going to sound very weird. I don't want to be afraid of the story, because he wouldn't, I mean, we wouldn't talk business or personal life that much, but I started telling him about what had happened. And I remember again, going into tears over breakfast. So the entire day, it was in that zone in which almost anything would remind me of my earlier experience that day.
Uh-huh. So was there actual insight that came through, or was it just more a feeling? Did you make any new decisions at that point?
I did. So actually, just that was February, March 2015, 2016. Actually, my last day in corporate America was the last day in February. So because I said, if I don't do it, who's gonna do it? If not me, who? If not me, who? Who is more ready to go all over the continent? That I know so many places, I've been in so many places. I know every single culture in the continent. Who more than me, besides knowing or identifying those impoverished communities, who else knows really the high level people that might help you bridge this gap between the super wealthy and the super underprivileged?
Wow. Okay. So now what? So what are you doing? How's this taking place?
So basically, I started my nonprofit. I reached out with a friend of mine who brought his father. Interestingly enough, I had no idea, but I reached out to my friend and I told him, hey, I just had that experience. I want to do this. Would you like to come with me? He said, yes, but I think that I should bring my father. Why would you bring your father? And he goes, listen, you didn't know this, but I'm going to tell you, we've been in touch for so long, but probably you don't remember that my father was actually the professor of the largest university in Mexico City that teaches education to teachers, literally to teachers. So he had his father, my friend's father, had these thousands of connections with thousands of teachers, not only in Mexico, but all over the continent that he had developed. So immediately we had a channel,
You had a big network.
Channel.
Yeah, you had a big network of people.
Exactly. And not only that, this gentleman, his father, had also written more than 75, 76 textbooks that are still today being used. So immediately we started talking, and he got 2 PhD students to work on what is today our workshop.
So what's the name of this organization? How can we find
Wisdom for Kids.
Wisdom for Kids.
Exactly.
Awesome.
You can find it at wisdomforkids.today.
Today. Okay. And where does this work? Where do you work? Who do you help? How many people have you helped? What are you doing? What's your specific mission?
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, as you can imagine, with COVID, we had to stop our activities. But so basically, we started mid 2018. We have helped more than 1,000 families already. We started with Mexico. Obviously, we are a nonprofit, and we are funded with donations and with the donations of the founders, right? And so basically, we started identifying different types of communities in Mexico. We've been in different areas. We have split the territory depending on the kind of community. We've learned really, really early on, we learned that depending on if it's an indigenous community, a rural community, or a suburban community, the needs are different, the kids are different, and the levels of poverty are different, right? So
yes.
So basically, we started doing that, like piloting, proof testing our workshop to make sure that our workshop was going to make a difference in these kids' lives. And don't expect that this workshop is something like whiteboard and, to become an entrepreneur, you have to do this. No, we really meet the kids where they are. We focus on, it's a very experiential workshop. It's like dancing, jumping up and down. It's like, playing. It's meditating with the kids. These kids have never meditated before. It's the first time ever that we meditate. And we obviously focus a lot on compassion, on acceptance, and on self-esteem. As you can imagine, kids living in this underprivileged world, they are going through a lot. We don't necessarily find out what they're going through, but we want to make sure that since the very early on the experience in the contact connection with Wisdom for Kids, we start inspiring them and we start showing them that the world is open to possibilities and not closed. And obviously, as you can imagine,
how long are these workshops, and like what's the desired outcome?
Yeah, great question. Obviously, the desired outcome is, number one, to change their lives so that they get back home, whatever that home is, and whatever the structure of the home, and if it's functional or non-functional, it doesn't matter. But it's a place where they will get our booklet, right? And that booklet will be the anchor to what they did with us. So the first thing is they have something to hook onto for the rest of their lives. That's number one. The second one is to identify, the second goal is to identify who of those kids that we just had a workshop with, which of these kids could be the right entrepreneurs for the future, because not everybody, has, let's say, the character to become an entrepreneur. So, I mean, in a workshop, we are literally four people, if not five, literally volunteers, really like screening, obviously without telling anybody. I mean, only telling the community leaders and the parents eventually, but just we are there, making sure that we have a really nice experience together, but also identifying who are the ones that they can become entrepreneurs. The ones that they might have an idea and they are so enthusiastic that they will take action after our workshop. So that's the step number one, that works. The step number two is then, engaging with their parents, with the community leaders or their tutors, because obviously sometimes there's no parents available, and then making sure that they follow through, that we talk with them, because regardless of what we think the kids could do, sometimes the parents, might be or might not be willing to help their kids do something else, right?
Sure.
Become entrepreneurs.
Right.
Depending on the area that we go. I mean, if we go to a suburban area, it could be, parents working on large manufacturing plants or working for the government. If we go to indigenous communities, there will probably be, working on sugarcane fields or coffee fields. So depending on where we go, then the next step and the conversation we have with the parents or tutors of those kids is different.
So this is a kind of you have to have a lot of human capital to be able to be and have your reach and influence in all these different places. So you must have a lot of people working at this organization, at least when it was running in its heyday before COVID, to be able to make these workshops, find the talent, keep engaged with them, and then keep them moving.
Yes, that is right. So that's why when we go to a specific community, we spend an entire week there and we develop relationships with really anybody. I mean, everybody in those communities know that we are there or we were there. Yeah. And it's funny because we never tell anybody that we are going there, besides like the community leaders, you know what I mean? So we don't ask for permission to anybody but the community leaders, the ones that that as soon as we tell them we would like to do that, how much is it? That's the first question. How much is it? And then we say, no, it's for free. Why for free? No, just because that's our mission in life. It's to help kids do this. And then they immediately say, well, okay, there's two things here. We're not going to tell anybody because we know that these kids will never get this in their entire lives. These kids will never have the opportunity to receive this kind of, let's say, inspiration or workshop. So immediately we establish a very intimate relationship with the community leaders because they really want us to be there to do that for their kids, because it's like a once in a lifetime opportunity kind of thing. They really feel like that. So,
Angela, this is great. Now, I guess the question is like, you're associated now with the person that teaches the teachers, right? The kind of the teacher university. what's it take to implement this kind of curriculum or these kind of coursework into regular education for kids across the country, across the all the areas that you want to cover?
Well, that's a great question. I wish I had an answer for you. My mom is a teacher. She's still alive in Spain. My sister is a teacher. I have a couple of nieces who are teachers. So I know that getting into the, let's say, the syllabus, right? Getting into the programs is another story. That means lobbying. That means doing many other things. So I don't see that being like I wish everybody involved in designing the programs on a countrywide, in this case in Mexico or in any other places in Latin America, would be open to have these discussions. Meanwhile, we consider ourselves complementary.
Yeah.
We consider ourselves that besides what they're already receiving, the kids that they're already receiving, the education that they're already receiving, we are providing them with something else which is unique and that will open their eyes and their avenues for their future. So is it necessary? Yes. Should that be included in the normal scheme of things, normal structure of programs? Absolutely, it should. Is it doable? It is, but we believe that will happen as soon as we go from 1,000 to 10,000 or to 100,000.
So you need some kind of critical mass. You need some bigger scale.
Exactly.
Start getting some attention.
In order to have this demand come from the bottom.
Well, so you're doing this in Mexico, but I would argue that the same issue and the same problem occurs here in the United States.
That's a great question. Exactly. Actually, when you have to be humble with everything that happens around you. I remember one day, one guy on LinkedIn publicly said, "You are such a hypocritical something." I don't remember the exact words, but why are you going to Latin America when you live in Texas and you could be doing that in your backyard?
Yeah.
And
what's your response? What do you think?
I allowed that thought to sink in, right?
Yeah.
And I said, I'm open to that. You tell me when. I told him, you tell me where and when, I'll be there. And we'll start that pilot in your area. You tell me when I have to go and I'll be there.
Yeah, I mean, and it's true because, just recently another organization reached out to me to help providing some short video and interviews on financial literacy targeted at young people, young millennials, late teenagers, early 20s, because they don't teach that in the United States. It's crazy that they'll give you a credit card at 18 years old. They'll let you vote at 18 years old. They'll let you do all these things, but they don't teach you how to read a credit report. They don't teach you basic finances. They don't teach you what it takes to buy a house or what it takes to get a car loan and what that means for you financially and how to budget properly. And those are some things that you would think would make sense to put into the curriculum of a high schooler. It wouldn't even take that long, right? It wouldn't even take that long. 1, 2, 3, 5 days max to teach all the basic financial literacy skills that you need to not make big mistakes throughout the rest of your life, racking up student loan debt, racking up credit card debt, knowing that there are opportunities. Because, I like watching Shark Tank, and I don't like the fact that so many people think that their idea of being an entrepreneur is limited to being on Shark Tank, right? You got to make some gadget that's made out of plastic and hope you can sell it for millions of dollars. And that's your best way out of whatever rat race that you might be in. That's not the case, right? That's not the case.
I agree. And I'm very well connected here in the, entrepreneurs, startup, environment here with the Dallas Startup Week, the Dallas Weekends, and the Startup Weekends and these kind of things. And I talk to entrepreneurs very, very often, and startups very often, and I couldn't agree more. The reality is that in general, startups and startup employees are not fully aware of the financial consequences, the financial impact, the financial implications of their business decisions. They are not.
Yeah.
So it's not only a problem of, is there a market or is my product going to be good or bad? It's a matter of every single decision that they make since day one, when they start with their concept, going to Shark Tank, right? Starting with their concept, are they fully aware that every single decision that they make has an implication? And that, have they been funded or not? It doesn't matter. The initial, seed capital that they have, are they going to use it wisely, taking into consideration the financial implications of their decisions? The reality is not. It's like the elephant in the room, Henish. It's the elephant in the room. It's even in corporations. nobody really wants to talk about financial, obviously the CFOs and everybody in the financial department, but there are a lot of, there are many discussions inside corporations that if they really were able to see their organizations from a set of financial statements, from the eyes of financial statements, things would be completely different. So to your point, I'm very involved here in the school in the school district with my kids as well. And I couldn't agree more. There should be a mandatory, since early on, very early on, in elementary schools about, do's and don'ts, just if it's that simple, do's and don'ts of your financial education, of your financial life. That would be enough.
Yeah, and it's tough because I feel like, and I don't know, this is the conspiracy theorist to me. I feel like there's like a concerted effort to keep a large majority of the people financially illiterate, so they make those mistakes, so they rack up the debt, so they're held to basically financial bondage to these creditors that they owe money to, whether it's student loans or credit cards, because that's a business model in the United States, versus people that have parents that are more financial literate that will pass on that literacy to their children, but that's typically upper middle class or better only. So if you're lower middle class or less fortunate, you're not getting those kind of lessons to teach you how to do debt properly, to teach you about passive income, to teach you about finances. And so if this gets skewed and the problem gets exacerbated, it's worse and worse over time, because the rich people with their rich kids continue to get richer, and poor people continue to make the same mistakes and not get out of this hole that they've dug themselves in. And so I hate that that's the case. When you would think that the rising tide should lift all ships as countries get richer, but as you're seeing, and I'm sure you know this, income inequality across the world is only getting worse. Rich people are getting richer, poor people are getting poorer, and that divide just keeps getting bigger.
Absolutely. I agree. And let me take this one step forward, which is, we're talking about financial literacy, right? But what other aspects of our education are taking us to the wrong place? So just, again, you mentioned conspiracy theories, but okay, so last year, just 1 year ago, we were in a completely different place. You and I would have even maybe a different conversation, right?
Yep.
Let's say, let's agree on the world has changed completely and people are right now in a different place that compared to where they were last year. So
correct.
If we just gave everybody the ability to identify how and where they are being manipulated, that. So why is what I'm doing today? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Are we being raised with this critical mindset of, I don't take the face value of anything?
Right.
I'm going to do my own research. I'm going to keep myself in my self-power, and I will do whatever it takes to have my own opinion. And then listen to both sides, or the 3 sides, or the 5 sides, it doesn't matter, and then make a decision.
Right.
I think that should be, that critical thinking, it should be, and obviously, well, with finances, it's so obvious, because what is the debt of this country? How many trillions, Henish? How many trillions? How much per American?
No, they're numbers that don't even make sense. And you're exactly right. I mean, teaching the critical thinking would be the foundation of all of this type of education, right? Question everything, make sure that you understand, make sure you're looking at different viewpoints before you come to conclusions, and do some research, right? Kind of teaching people how to learn is what it takes, because you and I understand this, and we agree that we don't know everything, and we're happy to learn more when we come across something that we don't understand. And I would never claim to be an expert or a master at anything, because I know there's always someone better than me, but I'll claim to be good at some stuff, right? But teaching people how to critically think is the foundation of this, and some people don't. And now we're in an era where it's hard to believe anything. It's hard to believe anything, right? You don't know what's being told to you is true or not. What's being told to you is being manipulated or not. What's the purpose? And as we see, millions of Americans are manipulated in different ways fairly easily, either through social media or through, what's called called doom scrolling, right? You find something bad and then you go down this rabbit hole, and all of a sudden you start believing that everything is exactly like that, because now you've been fed this information that's been programmed by these online software companies to keep you interested and engaged on that website or that platform. in whatever rabbit hole you've gone down.
And this is not even a conspiracy theory.
No.
I mean, this is proven.
This is known.
I mean,
that's known.
Exactly. This is known. I mean, you go and, the Social Dilemma movie, or there's another one which is old already, but it's funny how old movies right now, suddenly they are all so like right on, bang on. There's one.
And it's incredible they're not being censored. It's incredible they're not being censored, because then when you watch it, you're like, aha, I thought something was happening. Now this just somewhat confirmed it.
Exactly. Yeah. So again, it's critical thinking. It's like, and you never know, to be open, you are obviously, you very well understand the power of a conversation, right? Because the power of a conversation is just, you never know the amount of possibilities and opportunities are going to bring to you, to your life, to your business, right? So this is the power of, this is the real power of people. That's why we have to be together. That's why we have to talk to each other without, obviously being respectful, but, talk to each other and be open to listen. I remember that last year, for instance, I was really in fear in the beginning of what's happening in the world, right, with the virus. And I was thinking, oh my God, what's going on? I don't know. Okay, so first thing, boost my immune system. That's the first thing. And then try to understand what's going on. And I remember that what opened my eyes was a 90-year-old medical doctor who is in a nursing home in near Orlando, in Florida, saying, like, he was like extremely thin, like almost like dying. But he was saying so many amazing things that I just believe what this guy was saying, because he had nothing to lose.
Mm-hmm.
He had nothing to lose. And he said, everybody should do this. You should start thinking about, the power of, seawater. What happens with seawater when you use seawater? You actually should read this document. You should go to the website of this guy. You should talk to this UC Berkeley professor. And I did everything that this gentleman, like almost dying, told me. And I said, oh my God, there's so much out there that we're never told. We have to do our own research. And that's the thinking that we should give our kids. And if you are in doubt, follow the buck.
Yeah.
Where does the buck stop? Where does the dollar stop? That's it.
That's always the answer for, why things are bad. But you mentioned earlier, one of my main reasons for doing this show is to create awareness, is to share ideas that you might not come across typically, and is to expand ideas and the breadth of availability of all the things that are possible, and just have a discussion about it. And so, as we discussed, I think our key takeaway from this is understanding that you should critical think about stuff. Don't just take someone else's word. Don't just take anyone else's ideas and say, yep, that's it. That's code. That's Bible. That's not necessarily the case. Dig in and make sure you understand the other viewpoints and critical think. And that's a great takeaway from our time together on the show, I think.
Absolutely. And let me finish with an anecdote.
Okay.
When we go, there's a special, very, very dear to our hearts community that we go with Wisdom for Kids. And we always ask the kids, what would you like to be? What profession would you like to have when you grow up? And we go to an area that is actually governed literally by the drug cartels, but we still go there and we teach the kids and we help the kids. So from time to time, someone says, I would like to be a drug lord. Okay, so imagine everybody says, I would like to be a police officer, I would like to be a nurse, a doctor, you name it. Sometimes kids say, I would like to be a drug lord.
Yeah.
And obviously our answer is not, that's the wrong thing. No. Because we are in that position in which we understand that his brain or her brain frame of reference is the things that he sees every single day.
Of course.
So
that's the same thing that happens in inner cities in the United States or in meth communities in rural areas. They see the successful people, and of course you want to be like that successful person.
Exactly. So obviously from a place of compassion, of understanding, we say, okay, all right, so we understand it, and then we open our eyes, and but we already have heard this many times, but we never judge the kid.
Yeah, of course, because that's what they know. That's their construct. That's what they've built up. But I think you could take that and say, that's great, and then figure out why, and then dig into that, and then see if there's a better way to reach their goals.
Exactly. So at the same level, this is exactly what's happening in the schools in the world. In all the schools in the world, we have this frame of reference, And we are raised not to look outside this frame of reference,
Yes.
this framework in which we live, right?
Right.
That's why, going back to my story, I'm so blessed that, mom and dad taught me foreign languages. And eventually I was pushed myself to go to so many countries and do so many things in so many places, because I was able to have those many points of view in which, even if it's, no, you cannot, I mean, you should jump into those kids when they say that. No, not at all. Not at all. This is their life. So you have to understand it, and then you have a conversation and see where they're going.
Right.
So you just can be an inspiration for them.
That's awesome. Angel, hey, thank you so much for spending some time and talking to me. I really wish the best of success for especially your charity that you're doing, the Wisdom for Kids today. Right. Please let me know when that gets back up and running, because I'd love to get involved somehow. And I think it's a great, worthwhile cause that you're doing. I wish we could do it on a global scale, but hopefully a few people listen to this and start getting inspired to do their own things in their own communities.
Absolutely. We all can do this if we want to. It's a matter of willpower. That's it.
Of course it is. Yeah. And we don't have to hit rock bottom in the shower in a hotel in Dallas to do that.
Exactly. We don't have to do that, but that's okay. It helps.
Well, thank you for joining me. Please like, comment, subscribe to the show for I've Got a Theory, and Angel, hopefully we get to stay in touch and talk soon.
Absolutely. Talk soon. See you soon. And thank you very much to all the audience here listening to us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do not become attached to the signal, for the signal belongs to no one. 3 days from now, you will have an important revelation. Knowing this, there is something I need you to do for me.